From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, October the 17th, 2018. We open with rockets fired from Gaza at Israel in the pre-dawn morning hours, one of which hit a home in the city of Beersheba. The single mother of three who lives in the home grabbed her three sons from their beds and ran into the building's bomb shelter moments before the rocket landed, avoiding injury to them, though they, along with two others, were treated for shock. Extensive damage was caused to the home. IDF spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus was at the scene today.
At around 3:30 a.m. this morning, 3:30 in the night, this house was struck directly by a rocket that was fired from Gaza by terrorist organizations that fired a mid-size, mid-range rockets with a lot of explosives in its warhead at this civilian building.
A second rocket fired landed off the coast of the greater Tel Aviv area in Gush Dan. Rocket attacks on Beersheba are quite rare, and this morning's incident is seen as a major escalation. Terror groups Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad denied they were behind the rockets, but the IDF said they are the only groups that have the caliber of rocket used. And the IDF holds Hamas, who rules Gaza, responsible for any aggression coming out of the Strip. The IDF retaliated this morning with some 20 airstrikes on Hamas facilities, including a terror tunnel in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened his security cabinet today in light of the situation, vowing that Israel will act with force. Condemnation of the rocket attack on Israel was heard from United Nations Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, Nikolai Mladenov, as well as the European Union, who called it completely unacceptable. Jewish organizations expressed their solidarity with Israel. The American Jewish Committee wrote on social media, "We stand with the people of Israel against this heinous attack." The United Nations General Assembly voted yesterday approving the, quote, observer state of Palestine to lead the G77. The G77 is the largest bloc of developing countries at the UN. 146 countries voted in favor of the motion. Only Israel, the U.S., and Australia voted against it. 15 countries abstained, 29 countries did not vote. The resolution was presented by Egypt, who currently leads the G77. Doing so will allow the Palestinians, whose observer status is that of a non-member, to function like a member of the UN when acting on the group's behalf. Outgoing U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, said after the vote yesterday, today's UN mistake undermines the prospects for peace by encouraging the illusion held by some Palestinian leaders that they can advance their goals without direct peace negotiations. B'nai B'rith International thanked the U.S. and Australia for their strong opposition to the resolution, saying Palestinians don't constitute a state and can't without peace negotiations and agreement. When it was first announced back in July that the Palestinians could take on the position, Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations Chairman Arthur Stark and Executive Vice Chairman CEO Malcolm Hoenlein said it is completely inappropriate for a non-member state to preside over the G77. They said what was once a group created to facilitate the economic advancement of underdeveloped nations will now be a platform for distortion and incitement, augmenting the well-documented anti-Israel bias in the UN. They said this bloc helps assure the anti-Israel majority in the General Assembly. Well, Israel's Knesset opened its winter session this week, and with it some history was made. Arab-Israeli Neven Abu Ramoun was sworn in Monday as a lawmaker for the Joint List Party, making history by becoming the third woman to serve in the Israeli Arab Party in the Knesset at the same time. Fellow Arab-Israeli Knesset member Aida Tuma Silman said this is a breakthrough for Arab women in Israel. Students at New York University are planning to promote a resolution asking the school to divest from companies doing business with Israel. part of the BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions campaign against the Jewish state. The Allgemeine reports, citing the Washington Square News, that the resolution will be presented on November the 1st by 3 student senators, including co-founder of Jewish Voice for Peace at NYU, Rose Asaf, who is Jewish. Jewish groups including NYU Torch PAC and Realize Israel say the resolution is unjust and ultimately harms Palestinians, as it puts thousands of jobs with these firms at risk. A stamp from Israel's Post and the United States Post Office was issued today. The joint Hanukkah stamp was launched simultaneously at the Touro Synagogue in Newport, Rhode Island, which is the oldest synagogue in the U.S., and at the American Center in Jerusalem. U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman was at the Jerusalem ceremony. He said today's joint stamp issue is a symbol of the shared values and the cultural affinity between the United States and Israel. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Wednesday, October the 17th at 7, it's a look at Jews and pop culture from Limmud, New York 2018. At 8 o'clock, CEO and National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, discusses the rise of anti-Semitism and how the ADL is fighting it. That's from Temple Shalom in Greenwich, Connecticut. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Israeli author Ehud Diskin, who talks about his book, Lone Wolf in Jerusalem, which tells of Israel's pre-state struggles. At 10, journalists Brett Stevens and Peter Beinart talk about the future relationship between Israel and American Jewry. And coming up right after this newscast tonight at 6:30, it's Thinking Out Loud with Micah Halpern. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, October the 17th, 2018. I'm Teisha Bader.